Hi, everybody. We have Maud Garrett here with us talking on Dragon Talk. Hello, welcome, Maud. Maud G. Maud. Oh, hello, doggo. Uh, that's the way to do it. No worries. Just keep talking because we can't hear you. So just
They can only hear Greg.
they can only hear me.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Audio is very quiet except Greg. No sound on Maud. No Shelly or Maud.
Okay, I think I fixed it.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Now.
Now it's working.
Yay.
Wait, can you? Can you? Shelly, I can hear. Now we go. Okay.
Yay.
Hey.
Hi guys, you didn't miss much except this gorgeous face.
Look, we're just looking at doggies. Little Zelda. Totally.
You want to hope it's a she unless you're the kind of guy that thinks that the guy is Zelda.
Ha!
There you go. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it came out 3 years ago, so yes. But it is a perfect time to go back through like the archives and finish any games you haven't yet, or to go through like the big games that take 150 hours to finish. Just give them another run. That's what I'm going to be doing. It's a lot.
We got time. Oh, now they can't hear you, Greg.
Oh. And your confessions to playing Animal Crossing, they missed that? Lucky, I gotcha.
Yeah, convenient, huh? Okay.
Sweet. Hey,
Hi.
hey. How are things?
Great.
How are you coping with it all?
We took in a foster dog. We already have a dog and a cat, but we decided to get a foster dog too because we're home for so long. And she's kind of awesome and we love her.
That's good. I really wanted to do the same thing, especially like senior dogs, because with quarantine, all the volunteers aren't able to go and help out. So they're going to have like a lot of shelters like upping euthanizing because they just can't handle all that care with no men and woman power. So
senior dogs are my jam.
Yeah.
Our foster dog she's 8, but she's part Jack Russell, so she's
young at heart always.
She just wants to run and play, and she's so cute. But it's just nice having all these animals around.
Yeah, they make such a difference. Yeah, because when you talk out loud, at least you're talking to something instead of just being a little bit mad. That helps me.
Yeah, you get like a little tail wag, like it's like, you see me, you recognize me.
Yeah, and you still get love, and you're never really alone.
No. Now, are you in California?
I am, yeah. I've been here for about 7 years.
Like officially on lockdown.
Yeah.
Just like we are.
So like, well, we're not official yet, Tito.
I guess that's true. I did hear Jay Inslee.
A day or 2 away.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. For at least 2 weeks.
What does it mean to be officially locked down?
You cannot leave the house unless it's for essentials, which is going to the bank, going to the hospital, or getting groceries.
What about walking your dog?
So there are, guidelines with that. You can absolutely walk your dog. They just don't want you to meet up with anyone from another household, and try and stay at least, sort of 6 to 10 feet away from any other people that are on the roads, which is easy. Just do little zigzags all the way through. But honestly, guys, I feel like I've been training for isolation my entire life. I'm day 7 today, and I'm fine. In fact, I'm like more motivated than ever to get like more streaming shows happening. I've got a few D&D groups, and so I want to get them online so that we don't have to completely stop. Like, I got a new lease on life by being locked in my own home.
That's good. That's what we were saying. You got to find the positives. You got to find the pros.
It's a good time to be an introvert for sure.
Yeah. yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough because my
And a
family's all in
streamer.
Australia, but you just Skype with them as well.
Yeah. Have you been doing a lot of that?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. What about gaming? Have you been able to figure out new ways to use video conferencing to have that sense of community?
So yeah, I'm trying to get back on Twitch and YouTube Live and play some video games. That's why I've set up this new computer, because I got a PC, which is like souped up for game streaming. So I want to give that a go. Usually before, gaming was something that I did for me. It was my downtime. And I think the last thing that I wanted to do was give up something that meant a lot to me like that and have to entertain while doing it. But I'm home all the time. I'm entertained thoroughly. So I figure it's a really good time to kind of like, get involved in all of that, do more podcasts, do more Dungeons and Flagons, do more stuff that's really cool for Geek Bomb, which is my channel.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about Geek Bomb and why you started it.
So I actually started it because I was a host in Australia, and it's such a there's so few jobs in the hosting realm there, and you just have to be versatile across the board, because one day you might be hosting a gardening show and the next day you're hosting a fashion show. So you can't really have what was a niche back then, to the point where my agent said, if you keep talking about Star Wars and video games, you're actually going to lose work. So I started Geek Bomb. This was back in 2012. So it was before it really took off super mainstream. And I kind of used Geek Bomb as a pseudonym to be able to blog and talk about all the things that I really liked, but not actually have my name associated to it. And then, of course, I was like, screw that. I'm going to do videos. And one of the first videos that I ever did was how to play Dungeons and Dragons back in 2012. And I look back at that because I was playing 4th edition, and I look back at that now and I'm like, I had no idea, but it was new for me. And I was just so excited to talk about it and to build a community, especially in Australia. And then, about 6 months later, after I started Geek Bomb, I actually moved to America, and the opportunities were exponential, and having a niche was spectacular. So before, it's like I couldn't talk about sort of geek content. Now I can specialize in a tabletop game or a show, and that kind of niche is so great because, I've got a lifetime of all of this experience and I'm finally able to use it.
That's awesome. When did you start playing D&D? Did you start with 4th?
I did. I started 4th edition. A really funny story with that one. My brother had a group and I really, really wanted in because I loved the 80s, 90s, 80s cartoons. It was just like that role-playing thing with, having the magician, having the little unicorn with the barbarian, like having all of that. I was like, this is so my jam. And so I went along, and they'd been playing for over a year. And they'd stumbled upon a black dragon, and within about 40 minutes, they all completely died the true death due to acid damage. And I'm like, what happens now? And you just see 5 grown men just tearing up. Like, no, it's over. It's done. Yeah, then they've been playing these characters for a while.
Oh, no.
And I was just like, again. And they're like, we have to grieve. And the DM's just kind of like a little bit malicious, but like, you guys should have run away. You shouldn't have faced a black dragon. And so from there, I was like, all right, I'm in. I have to do this. And I got a friend on board who is a writer, director, and actor. And he's actually writing fantasy novels. And he's probably to this date the best DM I've ever had.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
he obviously knows story writing and story telling and world building, but also he would act out all the NPCs. And we were so invested in there that the bard would actually write songs. And the start of every game that we had together, he would sing on the piano about one of the other characters and the relationship that they'd built. Oh, wow. He was also a chef. So he would put out a banquet with he made mulled wine and mead.
Oh my God.
He would do baked brie with drizzled honey all over it. So it's the best introduction to D&D ever.
That's awesome.
The problem for me was that, I love the fantasy escapeness of it all. And I was a ranger. And the very first session, the hobgoblins ambushed us. And he goes, all right, roll for initiative. What would you like to do? And I was like, right, I want to run up the highest tree, get a good vantage point, and I want to fire an arrow, and I want to fire it through 3 of their skulls and kill them all. And he goes, okay, you can get to the tree. I was like, what? I'm a ranger. My backstory states that I'm the best what do you mean I just went to the tree? And he goes, well, it's about 6 seconds of combat. And I was like, this is not how I pictured an adventure. And so that's kind of where I started Fungeons and Flagons, which was throwing out the rule book. It's not having, +3 proficiencies and like that meticulous nature of it all, which is really great when you're having 5-hour sessions. But for me, I wanted to pack a punch, short episodes, really, really indulge in storytelling, adventure, creativity. And basically, if you wanted to do something, you surely could if you rolled high enough. But if you rolled lower, then you would have like that catastrophic adverse reaction to what it is that you wanted to do.
I love that. I think there's, a lot to be said about how streaming and presenting D&D in different entertainment formats have molded the game, right? So that people think about it differently. And there is the fun of downtime when, like you're saying, having those friend games with 5 hours and everybody's eating over pizza and talking about, whatever's happening in their lives. There's definitely moments for that. But I think the focus that's necessary for a streamed game or entertainment focused game is really exciting. And I think a lot of people are also now bringing that to their home games too. And that's really fascinating. So something that Shelley often asks a lot, but what kind of preparation did you get into in developing a show game rather than just playing with your friends?
It was actually something that I did when I was at a network, a channel called SourceFed Nerd. My predecessor, Trisha Hirschberger, was pushing for a Dungeons and Dragons show before Critical Role. And she left and I was her replacement. And I was like, all right, guys, we need to play Dungeons and Dragons. And so finally they were like, okay, you're the second person to bring this to the table. I guess this is something that we need to do. And obviously the creative director, he'd played Dungeons and Dragons. And he goes, there's just no way we can make video content for that long and have people sit through the entire thing. And I was like, I got you, fam. Like the way that I'm planning this, it's just 10 episodes. And it's going to be because we were all sort of like reporting news, but playing games. And we were all kind of like improvised comedians. So this thinking on the spot and the chemistry that we all had because we worked together 5 days a week, like if you throw something in there, it would bounce back and forth and be incredibly entertaining. So I kind of used that. And we build characters on the spot, on the fly. So they come in with absolutely no preparation. 2 of them had never played Dungeons and Dragons before ever. And then I was just like, out of these 3 races, which one would you like to choose? And then I was like, out of these 3 classes, what would you like to be? And a lot of the time, they got to either draw it out of a hat. So it would be a random combination, or they'd roll to see who could select first. So that was like preferential treatment in that regard. And then I would place them into a setting. But while we're doing the character development, I would find out I'd throw out little questions like, what's your goal? What's your character's goal? Tell me about your parents. Tell me about where you grew up. What's your objectives? What means a lot to you? What's something that you are really skilled at? Like you almost have like a magical ability, but what's something that is like the likely to kill you because it's your extreme weakness? And through all of that, I would weave in their strengths, weaknesses, and exploit them completely, but also put in like their goals. So if they had a twin brother who was their nemesis, boom, episode 5, guess who pays a visit? And so they all had such investment into these characters that they created on the spot, so that when I intertwined things that they had just like thrown away as a comment and I made them, an integral part of this journey, it ended up being like just so exciting. I don't know, I loved it. And I like to use like random weapons and items and, the treasure chest finds to also enhance their journey as well by giving them new abilities.
And you were the dungeon master for this?
I was the moderator.
The moderator. That's the moderator.
Yeah. I figure if I'm going to have a terrible name like Maud, I may as well do something kind of exciting with it. So yeah, I became the moderator in that one. And she's like, the all-seeing being kind of thing. But what was really cool about that, and this is because I've never seen Harmontown, and I don't know when that came out or if it was around the same time, but I got an animator who was a big fan of the show, who was Aussie, and I wanted to kind of, build up his career. We got him on board to character design all of the characters in D&D, and then do animated little recaps that we would play at the beginning of the episode to kind of like animatedly remind people what was happening on the adventure. Because I think a lot of the time, some people are very visual based, and instead of imagining things on their own, it's easier to kind of show them and place them in the world. So yeah, at the end of that, we kind of combined all of the previously on Fungeons and Flagons. We pieced them all together and it made this short, which you know, kind of succinctly told the entire campaign story. And I was really proud of that as well.
That's fantastic. I love how
I like that too. Like the idea of like being the moderator as opposed to a dungeon master. I'm kind of thinking on that. Well, I'm sorry, Tito, what were you going to say?
I was going to say you should be the Shellerator. No, that doesn't work. But no, I just love that you took the parts of 5th edition that were all about background and character building and things like that and were able to present it to folks who had never played before and make these choices, quickly. Because I think that improv nature is where a lot of creativity comes from. Because a lot of people, if they're just here, make your character, they'll be like, well, I don't know. There's too many choices. I can't choose from among these.
Which is great for some people who love to kind of like analyze the textbooks and to kind of gather that information. But I guess that, when it comes to how you play your character, like it's so interesting to see how different people tackle gameplay. So some of them could be like, well, I have +5 proficiency in this, therefore I will. And other people are just like, they'll act. I do this when I play D&D. I act as my character. I put on a voice. I become that character. I say, I'm going to do this instead of like, can my character do this? But I will play my character to a T. And that background stuff, I live and die by those. And which is why, as a moderator, I am very generous with inspiration. If you are playing your character the way that you have designed it, even if it kind of like upsets other people or isn't the best direction to play it. I remember my character, I have a high elf ranger, and she's basically kind of like, looks like Sansa from Game of Thrones, but acts like Arya. So she was raised, in the castles, but she just got bored. And the ranger backstory was like, she just had bloodlust and she wanted to kill beasts and go beast hunting. And so during the days, it would be like, we have to set up camp. I'm like, oh no, do I have to sleep on the ground? So I was like, where's my fluffy feathered, my bed keep? Who will look after you? You'll look after this for me. And everyone's like, no, I won't. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to. It's my character. Like, this is what my character would do because she's highborn. She's a noble and she's done the noble backstory. But when it comes to looking for treasure or wanting money, she's got no interest in that. And when she decapitates an orc, she will literally dip her head through the blood from its severed head and like paint it on her because she's like ready to kill. So it's a great juxtaposition. But yeah,
it's funny. Well, I
play my characters.
I love that, and I want to encourage that as much as possible, and I want to try doing more inspiration to do so. But it's been tough. I mean, some people, it's about finding the folks to play with, right? So one of the fun things that I always try to ask folks to do is when they're casting a spell, I'm always like, what does that look like? What does it do? How does it externally show that you're casting the spell? And some people are like, oh, it does this. They can immediately do it. But some folks are just like, I don't know. I cast it.
Right. And it happens.
What?
Yeah.
But I love using inspiration to encourage that type of description.
Yeah, I think that the backstory kind of gets lost because you're just focused on the here and now. It's like, well, I'm in this combat and this is our objective. And you're not really looking behind you or in the future. You're just kind of looking at where you are. I don't play like that. I have the luxury, though, of living in LA and playing with mostly actors and directors and the creatives in this space. I've gamed with Joe Manganiello. Currently, I've got Deborah Ann Wall in my group, and she's probably the best person I've ever played with. She's so fantastic. She's a mail lady mum, and she crushes it. And her objective is to deliver mail at whatever cost. And she's got 2 strapping young sons that she believes in. So she really gets into her character too. And I'm enamored by her gameplay because it's just so wholesome and wonderful. And it's like different to any way that I've played before. So I'm learning from her as well. And I love that I've got 50% of my group for this particular group is women. Actually, 50% of all my groups are women. And I love that too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think when you're talking about the way that you're creating these characters, because I'm interested in introducing D&D to more people. And I love really focusing on the story elements of the character. I remember my very first D&D character, I started with 3.5. And I was like, oh my God, it's taking days to make this character. I don't care. I don't know what these numbers mean. I don't know what these skills mean. And then as soon as the person who was helping me make that character said, "What do you want to name her?" I was like, "Oh my god,
I mean,
I'm Astrid. I want to name her Astrid." And I immediately became invested in it. And we didn't have like backgrounds and flaws and all that stuff back in my day, but I think like that's a really great way to get people immediately invested in their characters is like don't worry about like the numbery bits. Start asking them about who their character is and what motivates them and their parents and a secret. And you can do that stuff pretty quickly. Like
so,
I
so
mean, your
oh yeah,
episodes are short,
and people
right?
get more and more excited by it. What I love as well is like when I was in Australia, because like there weren't many nerds at all, and I was a closet geek for a while. I was telling people about my Dungeons and Dragons group, and a lot of my friends were just laughing at me like quite openly. They're like, "You're such a nerd." They're like, "There's no way that's fun. Like, what do you see in this? Like, why can't you just live life?" And so I actually did the character development with them, and
Oh.
it's so funny how like the biggest people who are just like, "I don't even care," and like, "You're a nerd." How quickly they turned when I started asking about their character and what does your weapon look like, and they kind of like, "Oh yeah, no, my dad's a blacksmith and he forged this relic that is like the reason that I live, and if anyone touches this, I will slaughter them." And I was like, "It's all right." And they're like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I guess it's not so bad after all. I guess it's kind of fun." And I love doing that with friends because it's like you can actually convince anyone to enjoy Dungeons and Dragons in that regard. And if we have like 5 or 10 minutes, I would love to do it with you guys.
What?
Yeah, do you want to do
Yeah, I totally do.
Sure.
it? Okay, alrighty. Ladies first, Shell, I'll start with you. Out of a high elf or a halfling or a dragonborn, I'll throw in one more for good measure, or a drow, what would you like to choose?
I've never played a drow. I'm gonna go with drow.
Done. All right. You are a dark elf. Greg, the remaining three, which one would you like?
I'm gonna go with halfling because I've just been rewatching Lord of the Rings with my kids, so
Okay.
they've been very fascinated with hobbits, and I want
Okay.
to show.
What gender would you guys like to choose? Can be male, female, neutral.
I'm gonna roll a
I'm gonna be
die.
female.
Okay.
High,
What are your
high
names?
is male, low is female.
okay.
Low. All right, I got a female dwarf. Female
All right.
halfling.
Female halfling. Okay. Greg, with that information, what's her name?
Her name is Deirdre Longpipe.
Oh,
Was her dad's
I
name.
love it. I'm
It was her
writing
dad's
it down.
name.
Deirdre Longpipe. Longpipe sounds like a family name. Where did that come about, and whose pipe was that long that it became your
It was
family's sake?
a kind of inventor a century ago discovered how to divert the nearby river and through an aqueduct, and so he was named Neville Longpipe.
Okay. Oh, I see. It wasn't a smoking pipe.
Yeah.
You got me.
Or a dirtier one. It was just a regular actual aqueduct that he built.
All right. So what's your drow's name? Female drow.
And funny, I was going to name her Dee Dee, which is really similar to Deirdre when you said
Right.
Deirdre. So I feel like I still have to roll with it.
Dee Dee the drow. I
That's
like
why they're good
that.
friends.
What's her story?
She doesn't like to talk about it.
Oh, okay. So this is what's interesting about the drow. I don't know if you guys know about Forgotten Realms, which is like another book series that I got into, especially because R.A. Salvatore was like big time into Dungeons and Dragons.
We have
But the
interviewed
female-
R.A. Salvatore a bunch of
Bob.
times. We like Bob.
I did too. I was supposed to have 10 minutes with him, and it was like at 11:30 his time leading into his birthday, and he's like, "I've poured Maker's Mark. We're good to go." We chatted for over 30 minutes about all of it.
Oh, you can get him ramped up really fast. He's amazing.
Oh yeah, I
love him.
loved it. It's one of my best interviews, and
He's
no
good.
one. Again, I did it on FM commercial radio. They're like, "What are we gonna do with this?" And I was like, "I don't know. It made my year." So
Just
we're good.
ask him about his cats next, and he'll.
Oh,
really?
He can talk about
Or the Red Sox.
with the Red Sox exactly.
Sport. That's where you lose me. But drows female drows are the dominant gender, and they usually are in a position of power. So are you in the family's sort of like top circuitry of a priestess or a warrior?
No,
Oh, what are you?
I mean, Dee Dee's she's really tiny. And so
she
she's
was a
always
runt.
She's kind of the runt of the litter and has always felt a little bit insecure.
Okay.
and just not like she doesn't really measure up.
So, out of the classes, did she go to the academy to study magic, or did she become an assassin with her small stature?
So she went to magic school
Okay.
and she did all right, but secretly she's been taking lessons in how to be an assassin.
Okay. So you're like a multi-class.
She's kind of
Ass-
fallen in with maybe a bad crowd, but she doesn't know that yet because
Ah.
she finally found people that accept her, and she feels
But they're secretly using her. Oh,
they might
she
be.
does-
Well,
Um,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they really do truly care about her.
Okay. What fighting style do you have? Are you weapons? Are you mainly magic user? Are you infusing magic into your weapon?
Yes, I think that would, because I've got the magic background. You know,
What's your weapon look like?
um,
You can have whatever you want to.
my hands,
Okay.
my cold magical hands.
So if it's say cold, you're an ice wielder,
Yes.
let's say. So you can shoot shards
Yes,
of ice.
yes.
Love it. Okay, great.
Let it go, Shai.
Yeah, I love that one. Deidre Longpipe, what's your weapon?
She uses a staff.
So you're a magic user too?
Not necessarily.
Fighter?
Yeah, she might be a monk, and being able to have some defense by picking up whatever sticks she's available. That's how she practiced, was going off into the woods by herself and picking up twigs and staves and ended up playing with it, and then she got quite good at it.
So why did you abandon your upbringings and your family and your hometowns to be on the life of an adventure as an adventurer?
The long pipes got rather rich and lazy by being the source of all of the water for the area, for the agriculture. And so they were just taxing and using that. And she wanted to provide water for more people out there, but her family wouldn't let her. And so they also wouldn't let her train how to fight, which is why she trained herself through the use of the staff on her own. And I don't know, maybe something happened. Something occurred where she got into a fight with someone and it went too far. Maybe she hurt someone too much, and then so out of shame and also the desire to, I'm totally just making this up, which is so fun.
Yeah,
great.
She left and tried to find her own way.
Great. Shell, why did Dee Dee leave her close-knit friends and her academy and her studies? Why did she get out of Menzerabon? What I can't say.
Menzoberranzan.
Thank you.
She hasn't technically left. Like her family still thinks that she's at Magic Academy studying. And so as far as they know, everything is business as usual. She's keeping it on the down low.
Okay.
She must have a sense that these people aren't really like her family would never approve of her being with this group of people, but for the first time in her life she kind of feels like she's carving her own path and she's rebelling a little bit. It feels real good.
Sweet. So with all that, I would probably have you guys meeting probably near the mouth of an entrance to the Drow Underdark, only because it doesn't sound like Dee Dee really wants to leave, and it sounds like Deirdre wants to get out of there, and you guys would have formed a bit of a friendship, is my hope. I'm going to probably say that you guys bonded over a similar name when you were drinking, and you got so drunk that, all of the racial tensions aside, you guys became quite close. And because the halfling is small in stature and Dee Dee obviously feels really insecure about her height, having a short friend actually made her feel really full. With that, though, on the adventure, I'd probably give you guys a common goal. Something would probably happen. Someone would run into the tavern going, oh my gosh, my daughter's been stolen, or something happened like that. And you guys would go off on your quest. But throughout that campaign, I would probably have a group of other mercenaries come after Deirdre because they are like the Robin Hoods of the area, and have found out that her family, bearing the Longpipe name, have been greedy and not helping the system, and they are actually out to regulate sort of like the hierarchy happening, socialism, capitalism, they're there to fight it, and they see your face as the issue of all of this corruption within the lands. And so they probably want to take it out on you. And then Dee Dee, the people that you abandoned, your family, would be coming after you because they would have found out that you'd left somehow. And you'd probably have to fight a mother or a brother or a sister. And it would be like, do your friends come to aid you, or do they leave you high and dry? So I would somehow interweave that throughout your campaign, but put you on this adventure. And already just talking about these characters for 5 minutes, you're just like, oh God.
I know. I wanna get
I
in.
love this.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So that's like no character sheets, no need for that. I write down the things that I need to know. And then we would hit the road with 1d20 and whatever you wanted to do, like obviously anything to do with a monk or anything to do with an assassin magic user. If you wanted to do that, like I wanted to send up a light of flame to, you know, to notify someone, I'd be like, well, yeah, you can pretty much roll with a +5 because you're a magic user. And, you know, with a monk, it's like, all right, cool. Even though you failed that roll, you've got chi inside you that, you know, you find that, yeah, you can like roll again. So I know enough about sort of like those characters to assist you in your gameplay and to assist people who have no idea how to play Dungeons and Dragons in their gameplay. But it's all about sort of like, yeah, the improv and storytelling. That is the most important thing. I throw in one episode, like every other episode will be delving into the characters more. And then every other episode will be combat. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And so there's no character sheet. You just don't.
I will give them a 1-page sheet so they can write down their name, their class, their race, any items that they acquire, any magical abilities that I will sort of like give them, but they will also put their strength and weakness on there so that, you know, when they're role playing, they can be reminded of where they excel and where they don't. So that, you know, because one of the players, bless him, Sam Basher, he's played all 4 or 5 seasons of this. And every time, so what's your weakness? And he says, I kill if water touches me. And I'm like, as a DM, you're screwed because all of a sudden the clouds gather and it's raining, you know. But it's yeah, really interesting to see the problem solving with that. But I definitely exploit weaknesses and I definitely put them in positions where their strengths will save the others as well.
That's fantastic. This reminds me very much about how I introduced playing D&D with my kids. I feel like 2 or 3 years ago was the first time they were like, they want to play D&D. And I was like, I think if I took them through the character sheet and all that stuff, that would be too much. So I basically just asked them a few questions like that and just had a 8.5 by 11 sheet of blank paper that I just did like certain notes. Okay. Elf, wizard, you know, and some more kind of biographical details. And we just ran with it and we created those characters, and they still kind of are the ones that they think of when they think of like what their D&D character is. They still will think of those ones that we created on the fly one Saturday morning. And I think they can be even more meaningful than the ones you pour over and min-max to figure out, you know, individual stats that are going to be the best in combat and all that stuff. It's like, it means so much more when you're making decisions that feel emotionally right, or just were an improv thing out of the blue that can just have a lot of resonance with people.
And I think personally for me, the reason why this came about in the first place, I think it's why Geek Bomb came about and it's why Fungeons came about. I don't like being told you can't do that.
Right.
Because as soon as I hear that, I will make a way to do it. So Fungeons and Flagons, like when I was like told, no, you can't do that in one move. I was like, well,
yes,
now I
can.
can. Yeah. And I want to encourage like never hearing that you can't do something, but always exploring how you can do something.
What do you think about
that kind of motto at life?
What do you think about, because this is one thing that my Kate Welch has yelled at me about, not letting my daughter play. She wants to play a druid. She loves being able to wild shape, but I'm like, oh, well, I mean, it's level 3. You'll be able to do that in the future. And she's like, you should just give it to her. And I'm like, I know, I probably should.
Yeah. So for me, because that's like kind of crushing excitement, but it's also saying if you work hard enough, you will get there. So it is encouraging like gaining experience points and having the reward for the work.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we were just planning it then, Shell, I almost noticed it's like, what's your weapon? And you're thinking of like almost level 1 intro things. And I'm like, no, imbue it with flame. Like think how far you can go with this, because the level system isn't really important, because I found that with my backstories, I would be like, I trained for half of my life. And then I come into a game and I'm level 1 and all I can do is poke and it does 3 damage. And I'm like, but I've been training for half of my life. Yeah. So in that instance, it's like the character that you are, the backstory reflects what you're capable of doing. But like, if you do want to say, all right, cool, I summon the water from the air to turn into ice which I will then shoot out in daggers and slice 3 of their throats, I will say, all right, roll me a 19.
Oh, that's awesome. So you tell them what
And
they
chances are they can't roll a 19. I mean, if they've been blessed by someone else, or if they're in a good position to like gain a bonus, I'll go, give me a 19, but you get a +2 on your roll.
Mhm.
But the more like the harder and complex the action, the higher you have to roll. And then of course, if they say they want to do all of that stuff and roll a 2, it's like, cool, you actually instead draw all of the oxygen out of the air, and for the next round no one can breathe.
Oh my God.
I love that, and I did
Yeah.
that similarly with my daughter, where she wanted to. I was describing a wolf that was going to attack them, and I was like, "Oh, it's snarling, oh, it's angry, and blah, 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 and growling," and she's like, "I want it to be my pet." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, roll an animal handling check as it's charging towards you, snarling with saliva flying everywhere."
Yeah.
And she rolled a nat 20, and I was like, "Okay."
Did you tweet about this?
I might have, yeah.
I think I've heard about this story.
Yeah, and I was like, "All right, well then you did it. You
You have
showed,
a pet wolf.
yeah, exactly. You gave the
Yeah.
rations, you gave it everything you needed, and all it was hungry, with all the slavering going on, and so now you have Fluffy, your best friend forever, as your pet, because you got to reward someone when they roll a nat 20.
That's it. One of the storylines that we had, because what I also want to do is involve the audience as much as possible. So through my Geek Bomb Patreon, I will say, all right, guys, this is an item. This is what it looks like. It's a chalice. Write to me what this chalice does. And I will compile 20 different things that it could do, so that when whoever has this chalice decides to use it, they'll roll a d20, and whatever it lands on is what
Oh,
it'll
that's
do.
awesome.
Mm.
I was gonna
And-
ask if you used like charts, because when you said, or tables, when you said that if they roll low, then catastrophic things can happen.
Right. A lot of it's on the fly.
Yeah.
Oops.
Like it's kind of easy to be like, if they give you what it is that they want to do, it's kind of easy to pick what the exact opposite would be. So I don't necessarily use charts in that regard. The things that I'm mainly equipped with are the Patreon backers' input and how they can kind of like change the game. So in the last game that we did, because a few schematics change every single season. This particular time, they were all given an item that had charges in it, and they earned a charge when they rolled a d20, and they lost a charge when they rolled a crit fail. So whenever they were in a predicament, let's say they rolled really poorly and things were going down, they're like, all right, I want to use my charge. And it was like casting a random spell. And something good could happen, something bad could happen, something neutral could happen, something that would not aid them at all could happen. It was such a risk. But one time someone was falling off a cliff. They rolled a 1 to catch themselves. They were dropping off a cliff. They were literally free falling. And they're like, I use a charge. And I was like, all right. Out of 60 different possibilities, they rolled, and it landed on their wand turning into an umbrella.
Oh my God.
Where it slowed down their falling completely. And they were like, the whole premise was no matter how fast or hard they're falling, they will land safely on their feet. I'm telling you, when that came out, everyone was like raucous. There were tears, there were like laughter, people were hugging.
It was a ticker tape parade all of a sudden.
Oh
Just
my
all the
God,
things
That is
happened.
amazing.
But it's that kind of thing. And then of course the person who submitted that just felt like an absolute hero because they saved the day, you know?
Yeah.
So that is just, I love that part where
That
everyone
is
can get
cool.
involved. Yeah.
It's a really cool way to get your audience involved too. I love
Yeah,
it.
because I'm trying to like enhance their creativity and they feel like
Yeah.
that they have an impact in the storytelling.
Yeah, I've never, the only dungeon master I've ever played with that did had effects happen if you rolled low was Satine Phoenix, and I was like,
I played with them.
at first I was like, what? Like, it's bad enough that I just failed trying to do the thing that I tried to do, but now I'm going to be punished for it.
And if
Oh my
that
God,
dice rolls
see?
off the table, you
Oh,
get
no.
disadvantage.
Oh, I didn't
like
even know
that.
that one.
Yep, that's the teens rule. Yeah, I was in season 1 of Sirens of the Realms.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I played Shadow, another ranger. I'm always usually like a ranger or a rogue.
That was my first kind of character class of choice too. I think it's because I have a Aragorn complex.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And because, like, you know, when you played a wizard, depending on how strict the DM is, you need these materials to be able to cast. Come on.
Yeah.
There's like I'm reaching into my pocket and there's kindling and a quail egg. Good, now I can cast this. So I don't.
It's
buy
hand
into all
waved a
of that.
lot though now. I mean,
Yeah, thank
how many DMs
goodness.
actually track components and whether people have them?
I've
Can I get a
never
raise
had
that?
one, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But even like, have you prepared that spell? You're like, I didn't know I would need it.
Right. That's such a bad feeling too when you're like, I have the perfect spell to use in this specific instance, but I didn't prepare it. Ugh.
So my understanding as a DM is like you learn the spell. It's like Harry Potter, you know. It's like
Right.
if you've learnt Stupefy and Wingardium Leviosa, it's like you don't have to prepare that. You just know it. You know what to cast as a magic user.
I just
You know, it's
watched
not
that
like
scene.
saying you're a rogue. Can you remember how to stab? Ah,
Is it the pointy end? I don't
Did you
remember.
prepare?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that you've been doing this for 5 seasons. You said, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Started in 2015.
I think the people that are jumping into playing Dungeons and Dragons right now can use what we've been talking about here as inspiration. You all have that inspiration now, so good. You
Yeah,
can
use
roll
that
it
if you
forward.
get a bad roll, guys.
But right, like I think this is a great way for people to get into it and realize that there's not this huge barrier to entry, that you can just get together and play and talk about the things that story wise that make sense to you and plan it out. But it can be just as simple as improving and oddly enough, what you were just doing with us and coming up with our characters is similar to a little mini campaign that Shelly and I have been doing, and to close out these podcasts is just like we have like a little 15-second like story, and we roll one die, and then it ends up having this like continuous thing. And I think they don't need to be 9-hour sessions. They can
Yeah.
be these bite-sized 15-minute things that you can schedule now. Especially when so much of us are isolated, you can schedule them in just brief moments in between breaks when you're working from home. And I think that's you've really inspired me to do that.
Oh,
I know. Yeah.
I'm
Your
on-
your way is really like it highlights the best of it's like the highlight reel of Dungeons and Dragons. Like
It's
your-
like the
your
sports
character.
center.
I
Yep.
think the most rewarding thing for me creating this is the amount of people that have said, I now play Dungeons and Dragons because this was my introductory into it. Like you
Oh,
built
wow.
out this world and showed me what it was like, and I had to get involved. And they're like, I really appreciated like the simplified version. Some people are saying that they have their own homebrew rule version, just like that, because that's how they felt comfortable. Other people full out playing 5th edition now. But yeah, to hear I'm doing this because of you, like, hey, yeah.
Yeah.
And as you were talking there, Greg, it was like, you were saying that kind of format is really helpful for kids to play because the rule system can be hard for them too. I'm like, I was going to recommend Fungeons and Flagons, except I realized that we drink playing and there's a lot of F-bombs. And
Ooh, my kids would
seasons
love
ago,
it.
yeah, 2 seasons ago, I had to make the charges happen because before that, if you rolled a 1, you had to have a shot of tequila. And if you rolled a 20, you could nominate that shot. And we would film 3 episodes back to back.
Ooh.
Someone threw up once. So
Oh no.
wasn't me, it was a guy.
That's good content, though. That's really
So-
good content.
But like as I was trying to prepare for the next episode, I had to rewatch it and I was like, I'm watching it for the first time. Like I can't remember any of this. I couldn't remember anything that had happened. And of
That
course-
is the dangers of drinking while playing.
At
And
least
when you
it's
are
documented.
inebriated, yeah, one of the storylines, I was like, you have to try and kill this copper dragon that's got copper plating all over it. And, thinking that someone would like get in between the grooves and pierce its heart. No, when you've had 5 tequila shots, someone wanted to enter its cavern, wanted to enter inside of it. And I was like, my poor dragon, you want to do what? And it's like,
Oh.
yeah, I'm going to
I don't even know if that's
arouse.
anatomically correct.
I'm going to arouse this dragon, and then I'm going to, and I was just like, oh my God, put the drinks down. Like, I felt bad. for my
So
dragon.
kids, let's watch Fungin and Flagons. It'll be
Yeah.
really educational in multiple ways going
Right.
forward. No, but I think there's something that we like. You can still use the things that you're inspiring people to do and keep it in a family friendly kind of way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For
So
sure.
no worries there. But kudos to you for keeping it adult, because I think there's also a place for adult content too that people want to jump into. I think D&D is a big part of that. So I keep the tequila flowing in my
Right.
Oh dear. Oh, I mean, it'd be un-Australian of me not to. So
There's
Yeah.
a time and a place.
Gotta
I
go to
know
your
for
roots.
when I drink and play D&D, I feel like I'm actually a much better player.
Well, it's like you roll a one and you're like, oh well, what's
Uh,
the worst that could happen?
I get all beer muscly. I'm like, I'll go.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're the wizard. Get back. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I got this.
I'm tanking now.
Can't touch
Deal with it.
me.
Right.
Yeah,
That
that's
could be
good
true.
stuff.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Maud, and talking us through. Now I want to follow on the adventures of Deidre Longpipe and see if her friend Dee Dee would like to come along.
Sorry
For
about your
sure, she
family.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
So how? I mean, you've been mentioning a lot of the things that you've been doing. Well, what's a good kind of landing page for folks to be able to follow more of your work and find out more?
If people do want to watch Fungeons and Flagons, season 3 and 4 outside of SourceFed is up on youtube.com/geekbomb. You can check out all of those there. I definitely recommend watching. They're only 45-minute episodes, and there's 10 episodes in the season. And then I'm actually looking to start technically it'll be season 6, but season 3 on my network. So it's a whole new cast, new characters. It's a new run every single season. But I get the same animator on board and he's so great. And so I'm looking to kind of set up Roll20 and use this kind of interface and start doing campaigns online while we're all quarantined. But if people want to donate and be a part of that campaign, then it's patreon.com/geekbomb, because we're hoping to hit a particular goal so that we can put out the next season.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
More folks need to jump into supporting creators like that out there. I think this is the time. I know we
Save
do a
small
lot of-
businesses.
Exactly. Right. It's huge. So thank you for your enthusiasm, as well as the drive to keep creating in this time frame is going to be super important, and I appreciate it. And like I said, you've inspired me.
Thanks. Thanks for the chat as well. You get inspiration. You both get inspiration.
Yay! I
Yay!
need it.
Also, I need tequila because it's Friday.
Yep.
Same.
Thank you again, and I think we're gonna close it out. So thank you so much, Maud. You're the best.
Thanks for having
You
me.
are.
We'll have you on
Bye,
again.
guys.
It's been a pleasure.
I think we're gonna need a shot of Australian inspiration in the coming months. So
Done.
you've been delightful.
I'll be here, ready to go.
Awesome. All right,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Watching.
Thank you. I'm gonna move this, even though it's gonna get wonky. So we'll see. We're gonna
I'll
make it.
close.
All
Shall I
right.
go I'll close.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Yeah. Good. That'll work.
Bye.
Bye.